Welcome back to the poker vlog. This is episode number 337. For this one, we're playing a high stakes 10, 20, 40 session at Bellagio. But before we get started, I've got a couple things I want to talk about. I'm up here in California. I've been playing at Grayton Casino. I just had this massive win that's going to be in an upcoming vlog, but I've also been playing online quite a bit on ClubWPTGold.com. If you sign up, be sure to use promo Brad. There are a few exciting things happening. Starting May 7th, ClubWPT Gold is going to a client portal, so it won't be web-based anymore, and we'll be allowed to do multi-tabling. So that's going to make streams and just playing on there a lot better. There's going to be more improvements to come, so I can't wait for that. I'll have more information in the description box below and a link to sign up pinned in the comment section. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I walk away from 510 stuck exactly $500 after playing for 4 hours, but the poker isn't close to done. I had a $5,000 flag chip to the rack that we're going to be using to play a 10-20 game that just started. We get some new chips, so we head to the table with aspirations of getting unstuck for the day. It looks like a pretty decent game overall, with fewer regulars than normal, so we should have a good opportunity. We begin with 7,800 in front of us. It's a little after 3 p.m. I'm somewhat tired after already playing half the day, so I'd like to have an efficient session in the high stakes area and maybe leave the poker room with a couple thousand more than we walked in with. Less than half an hour in, we're dealt 7-6 suited in the small blind. We're playing 5-handed at the moment. Under the gun raises to 60. The button calls. We've got a fun combo to go wild with. We're going to put on the 3-bet squeeze. I re-raised to 360. We might be able to win this one without a fight. If we have to see a flop, it could be difficult to play out of position, but we'll have plenty of playability. The initial pre-flop raiser folds. He's always the person that we need to be most concerned about. The button didn't have a hand that he necessarily wanted to play a bigger pot with, otherwise he would have 3-bet himself. The button doesn't want to let us have it though. He calls for 300 more. He might have a pocket pair of some sort that he's hoping will improve to a set. The flop comes 8-4 deuce with 2 hearts. We've got a straight flush draw. It's not typically a flop that's going to be great for us, but that's an added benefit to 3-betting a hand like 7-6 suited. When opponents see us smash an 8-high flop after re-raising pre-flop, they'll store it in the back of their minds that we can be strong when any 3 cards come out. I bet 400. If the button has 2 high cards and no draw, we might be able to win it on this street. Evidently the button has at least a piece. He calls. He could have top pair, a small or medium pocket pair, perhaps as good as pocket tens, or maybe even higher hearts that could get us into trouble. The turn is the 7 of spades. We improve to a pair. We might actually have the best hand. If not, we still have a monster draw. I'm keeping the pressure on. I overbet 2,000 to try and win it without improving to a flush or straight. The button still isn't going away. There are multiple flush draws out there and a lot of cards that could come out that would change the nuts, yet the button doesn't appear to be contemplating a raise. He calls, indicating that he has 1 pair or a draw, possibly both. He could have ace-8 or 9-8 of spades. He may just have those types of combos without spades as well. If he had 2 pair or better, he would have made a move by now and raised me at some point. The pot is massive. We'd likely need to drill the river in order to take the lead. The dealer puts out the deuce of hearts, giving us a flush. I ruled out the opponent having 2 pair or better on the turn when he didn't raise us by then, so I'm not concerned about the board pairing and us losing to a full house. I'm somewhat concerned that we could be losing to a better flush, but that's it. I announce a bet at 3,500. It's a little less than an all-in. I'd like to get called by pocket 10s, pocket 9s, and ace-8 or 9-8 combos if the opponent suspects we're bluffing. I was used to playing with the $10 chips from earlier today, so I accidentally put out 2 more stacks of 20s than I needed to in order to make the $3,500 bet. I'm just so excited that I bet large on the turn, then got there, and I'm a bit distracted by trying to capture it all on video as well. The button has made a nice home for himself in the tank. He's thinking for a long time. I don't have that much behind, so he would have shoved by now if he had the ace-high flush, and he would have snapped with any other flush that beats us. The opponent surely has a worse hand that he's considering calling us with. I'm rooting for him to match our bet. More than a minute goes by, then the opponent finally folds. We don't get paid on the river, but we still win a large pot to kick things off. Taking the high variance route from the start with suited connectors wins us a couple thousand. It's a nice way to begin the session. In this one, we're dealt Queen-8 suited in the cutoff with the $40 straddle on. There's a good enough combo to open with. I raised to 120. The small blind calls. We're heads up in position. The flop comes Queen 10-7 rainbow. We've got top pair and some backdoor draws. The small blind checks. We don't know if we're ahead or behind. We don't really want to see overcards come out, but spades, a queen, a jack, or 9 are all going to improve our hand, so seeing a free card doesn't hurt much. I check back for pot control. The turn is the queen of clubs, giving us a hidden trips. The small blind checks. We under-repped our top pair on the previous street. We probably won't get much credit for having trips when more queens are accounted for. I bet 160. It should look like we've got an ace-10 or king-10 type of hand at best. The small blind incorrectly interprets our delayed c-bet as weakness. He check raises to 460. This is working out better than I could have imagined. The small blind probably would have 3-bet pocket 10s pre-flop, and we know where 75% of the queens are, so the only real hand I'm worried about being up against that beats us is pocket 7s. Still, most players would lead turn with a full house after it checks through on the flop. I'm nearly certain that we have the small blind crush, and he's making a move light or to see where he's at with a pair of 10s. I call to keep his bluffs in. The river is the ace of diamonds. It's not a particularly great card because king-jack improves to a straight, but the small blind checks. He likely would have continued betting if he hit a straight. Maybe he has something with showdown value though, like ace-10 or ace-jack. I target those with a bet of
800. Call.
Trick queens.
No good.
My read on the situation is incorrect. The opponent reveals that he has pocket 7s after all. He flopped a set, turned a boat, put in the check raise, then admits that he was concerned that we had ace-queen, so he played the river passively. This hand doesn't work out how I drew it up. I almost checked back river. Instead, I get greedy and take myself to Value Town. The good turn was just a mirage. I lose a large chunk of change. Next, we're dealt ace-10 suited on the button. The $40 straddle's on every hand now. We're playing 10, 20, 40 with a $20 big blind ante. I imagine Under the Gun +1 is a Lakers fan and enjoys watching LeBron James play from the cheap seats because he open limps, which demonstrates his appreciation for seeing flops while paying the minimum. We can't allow that. I raised to 140 in order to isolate the limper. We don't quite accomplish our goal. The Under the Gun straddler calls. The limper calls as well. We're going 3 ways to the flop. It comes Queen Jack 7 with 2 hearts and a diamond. We've got a gutter ball to Broadway, 1 over and a backdoor flush draw on a flop that's good for our range as the pre-flop aggressor. It checks to us. There's a chance that we've got the best hand. If not, we can put a lot of pressure on our opponents by continuing to fire whether we improve or not. I bet 260 is a semi-bluff. I wouldn't mind taking it down without any resistance. Under the Gun is a resistor though. He calls. Under the Gun +1 is someone I like a little more at the moment. He's complicit in folding. Plan A is stealing the pot on the flop. Doesn't work. We're going to plan B. The dealer puts out the king of clubs, giving us the nuts. Under the Gun knows the 3rd Broadway card is bad for him no matter what. He checks. We have the stones. We're going to go with a polarizing bet size. I wager 1100. We at least charge heart draws, and maybe we can get called or raised by a non-believer or possibly by the Under the Gun player if he has the low end of the straight. The opponent quickly folds. He probably had a pair of jacks or worse. The dealer's fast and takes the cards back in before we're able to get a view of the board. We recover some chips after losing the Queen 8 hand though. Here we're dealt pocket 3s in the Under the Gun straddle. The hijack raises to 100. He's the opponent from the last hand that we went over. The big blind calls. This is the player that we beat with 7-6 suited to kick things off. Maybe the initial pre-flop raiser thought that he could get through me easy, but he must have forgotten who he was up against. I remind him that I'm Brad Owen, Lord of the Late Reg, Punisher of the pre-flop raisers with questionable holdings, triple barrel bluffer when the cameras are rolling, and eternal defender of the straddle. I call for 60 more. 3 of us are seeing the flop. It comes 9-6-3 rainbow. We've got bottom set and 2 opponents. The big blind checks. We drill 3 threes, quickly surpassing Shaquille O'Neal on the all-time list, but we're always going to let the initial pre-flop raiser have a crack at c-betting. I check. The hijack isn't comfortable firing into 2 opponents on this board. He checks back, saving more money than if he switched to Geico. The turn is the jack of clubs, adding flush and straight draw possibilities. The big blind takes the initiative, betting 160 so we don't have to. Ideally, he'll have some sort of top pair combo or maybe even 2 pair that's drawing slim against our triple 3s. I raised to 500 for value. The hijack sees a lot of action in front of him. He's not going to be able to continue with many combos. He folds. The big blind apparently took a stab as a bluff. He folds. We've made a couple of really strong hands, but can't make a whole lot of money with them. Eventually, some larger pots will come our direction. For now, we're okay at least hitting sets and straights. It's time for a double board bomb pot. We've got 3 deuce of hearts in the cutoff. 7 of us put in $100 each, and we go straight to 2 flops. The only person at the table who's sitting out is the player who would be the button. The first flop comes 8-6-4 rainbow. We have nothing except a draw to the low end of the straight and weak backdoor flush potential. The second flop is Jack 7-5 with 2 spades. We're in big trouble there. It checks around though. The top turn is the 5 of hearts, giving us a straight, and we pick up a flush draw just in case it isn't good. The bottom turn is the ace of clubs. We pick up a gut shot straight draw there too. Checks to us, there's 700 in the middle. We're going to take a stab. I bet 200. It's a small wager. If someone had a 7 for the better straight, they probably would have bet before it got to us. We should have the best hand a lot of the time on the top board, and we get better hands to fold on the bottom. No one wants to battle us. All of our opponents fold. It's a nice pot that comes towards us. We're currently up a few hundred during the 10-20 portion of the day, but I still haven't quite recovered all the money I lost earlier in 5-10. We need to change that. We look down at ace-4 suited in the cutoff. I raised to 120. This is one of those hands that we're going to play like pocket aces if we get 3-bet. The big blind likes to get involved. He's a recreational player who occasionally watches the poker vlogs. He wants to go to war and maybe make the video, but he commits a huge error in the process. The opponent calls our raise and basically announces that he has a really weak hand he wouldn't ordinarily see a flop with, but because the session is being recorded for YouTube, he's getting in there. Saying something like that when you're not closing the action isn't a great idea. I cringe when I hear it because I know what's coming next. The under-the-gun straddler is a strong pro who's more than capable of taking advantage of extra information that he received from the big blind, and he does. Under the gun 3-bets to 700. We have a hand that we were content to 4-bet anyway, but when we have additional reasons to believe a light 3-bet squeeze could be on, we're even more eager to play our suited ace aggressively. I 4-bet to 2,000. The big blind, unsurprisingly, doesn't have anything. He folds. We catch under the gun making a move. He folds quickly. We realize some of that YouTube equity after all. Under the gun capitalizing on the big blind's mistake allows us to recapitalize. We win over 800 without making the dealer work extra hard. Now we're dealt King 10 offsuit in the under the gun straddle. Under the gun +1 raises to 100. The big blind calls. It's only 60 more for us and we're getting a great price. I call to close the action. 3 of us are seeing the flop. It comes ace 10 6. We've got a piece. Middle pair might be just enough to get us into trouble. The big blind checks. I check to the pre-flop aggressor. He knows the ace high flops are good for him. He bets 120. The big blind folds. We might be drawing slim, but we're not folding our pairs this early in the hand. I call to see the turn. The dealer puts out the ace of spades, making it less likely that we're up against an ace. It's actually a good card for us as long as under the gun +1 doesn't have trips or better. I check. The opponent's worried that we could have 3 aces. He checks back. Maybe our pair of 10s is best, or maybe we're up against queens or jacks. The river is the 8 of spades. The backdoor flush draw gets there, and so does 9-7, but I doubt the opponent improved. I check with plans of calling any reasonably sized bet. Could look like we've got bottom pair or king jack, and we won't want to see any more aggression from our opponent. Under the gun +1 bets 320. We played passively on the river by checking, partially to induce a bluff and ensure that we get to showdown. We're not giving up. I call. Under the gun +1 gets caught trying to steal hundreds of dollars from us. He reveals that he has king-queen offsuit. He flopped a gut shot straight draw and turned his hand into a bluff on the river. We win a medium-sized pot without too substantial of a hand. Our stack is approaching the $10,000 mark again. We're up about $2,000 in 10-20 and $1,500 overall on the day. We're playing another double board bomb pot with 7-5 offsuit in the big blind. This one's 8-handed. The first flop is 10-9-6 with 2 diamonds. We've only got a gutter there. The second flop is 7-5 deuce rainbow. We've got top 2 pair there. The small blind checks. We should be best on the bottom board and we have potential on the top. I bet 260 to clear out some equity and maybe win the pot. The hijack won't let us have it. He calls. If it gets down to heads up, I'll be applying a lot of pressure on the turn to avoid splitting the pot. The small blind has no fear though, and maybe no regard for money. The small blind check jams for $7,740. This is an absurd play. I'm not even sure what hands it makes sense to overbet rip with for piles. I really can't think of any. Maybe he has an overpair that he doesn't know what to do with. The problem for us is that we have almost nothing on one board except a gut shot straight draw that might not even be live. If the opponent happens to have 8-7, he has us destroyed up top and he's live on the bottom. He could also have pocket 10s or pocket 9s, and we'd be in pretty bad shape. Maybe he just has something like ace-7 of diamonds though, and he wants to gamble. If the opponent has a set of 7s, 5s, or deuces, we're likely going to get scooped. It's not worth risking the majority of our stack. I fold. I'd want to have the nuts on one board, or I'd like to make sure that I have a combo that at least can't be beat on both boards in order to hang in there. The hijack isn't going to call either. He folds, but he wants to see what the runouts would have been. He shows that he has 8-5, which is a similar hand to ours. He actually has the cards that we would have wanted to see on future streets. The top turn is the Queen of Hearts. It's a blank for us. The bottom turn is the Queen of Spades. Another bad one for us. The first river is the 8 of Spades. We would have drilled our straight, but any jack would beat us there. The second river is the 8 of Hearts. The hijack would have made a better 2-pair than us on the bottom. I'm still more interested in what the small blind shoved with. He briefly flashes the 7 of Diamonds and another black card that I believe is the Deuce of Spades. He flopped a gut shot straight draw like us on the top and 2-pair on the bottom, but our 2-pair was better. We would have won 3/4 of the pot if it was heads up against him. If we called and the hijack somehow called, we would have only won 1/4 of the pot. The small blind is glad that the hijack didn't call the jam because the hijack would have chopped with him.
You folded.
Shit, that's good. That's a good thing.
Here we look down at 6-4 suited in the cutoff. We've got a weak 1-gapper, but it's playable from this position when it folds to us. I raised to 120. The big blind calls. He's the opponent who was contemplating calling the shove in the bomb pot with 8-5. We're heads up. The flop comes Queen 6-4 with 2 diamonds. We smash 2-pair that should be very hidden. The big blind checks. We're not going to slow play. I bet 200. Maybe the big blind put us on top pair or a flush draw, but he likely has no reason to suspect that we're close to the top of our range. After gathering chips, he calls. The turn is the 4 of clubs, giving us a super sneaky full house. It keeps getting better for us. The big blind checks. My first instinct is to check because this is generally not going to be a card that we'll like to see all that much when we've got something like top pair, because the big blind will have more 4s in his range than us, especially this particular opponent. He likes to see flops, and it's the same player who called our pre-flop raise earlier while saying YouTube equity, so it appears he's willing to expand his range and play hands that he shouldn't in order to battle us, but we're going to extract as much value as we can when we have a big hand. I bet 300. Maybe we can induce a light check raise or at least get called by a drawn combo that has no outs. The big blind calls. He could have a queen or 2 diamonds. The river is the 3 of Hearts. 7-5 just improved to a straight. The big blind checks. We got a great run out for our holding. If the opponent has a missed flush, he won't be calling a bet at any size. If he has a pair of queens, the case 4 or 7-5 for the straight, he'd probably be willing to call a large bet. I target the top of his range and bet 1500. The big blind doesn't immediately fold like you would if he had air and a missed draw. It should look like we're trying to buy the pot. Our bet is very polarized. We either have the nuts or nothing. The big blind is soaking up some airtime as we await his decision. 1500 is more than he wants to spend to get to showdown. He folds. We win the pot. It would have been nice to be 1500 richer, but the opponent lets us know they didn't really have much to call with.
Yeah.
5-6 is only a weak pair. It's too bad he didn't try to bluff catch though. Now we pick up King Jack offsuit in the under the gun straddle. The cutoff makes a small raise to 100. I call. We're heads up out of position. The flop comes 10-9-6 with 2 clubs. We've got a straight draw with 2 overs. I check. This is a flop that's not bad for our range as the straddler. We'll connect frequently in some way with a pair or draw. The cutoff isn't afraid though. He puts out a c-bet of 120. We have multiple options on the table. I consider turning our hand into a bluff and going with a check raise to possibly win, but the cutoff could definitely have an above average hand or potentially the nuts. It's not an automatic c-bet situation for him, yet he decided to put in additional chips anyway. I take the safer route and call to see if we can improve. The turn is the Jack of Diamonds. It's a card that probably gives us the best hand with our top pair. I check to the pre-flop aggressor. His flop bluffs like King Queen get there. The cutoff isn't comfortable firing a second bullet though. He checks back. He probably would have bet again if he had complete airs, so this check back makes it seem like he has a 1-pair hand, perhaps containing a 10, or maybe even a hand like aces that he's pot controlling. The river is the 10 of diamonds. I don't like seeing that at all because it's very possible we just lost our lead to trips. I check with plans of check calling. The opponent is in no hurry to get to showdown. He fires a bet of 360 out there to rep the 10. We're not in the greatest spot. His story makes sense that he has trips, but he's also seen a lot of passivity from us. We only check called the flop, and then we checked both the turn and the river. The cutoff could be trying one last time to buy the pot with a missed flush draw, or he might even think a worse value hand is good like Queen Jack. We didn't check with intentions of folding. I call. The cutoff reveals that he has ace 10 for trips like we feared. The turn was too good for us. We didn't need to fade a lot of cards, but the cutoff improves the win, and he gets a good amount of value out of me on the river. Later we're dealt pocket 4s in the small blind. We're playing 5-handed at the moment with a couple of people away from the table. Pocket 4s is good enough to play when it folds to us. I raised to 140. We actually raise all of our pocket pairs from this position, even though it can be uncomfortable on a lot of flops when we're playing a bigger pot out of position. The big blind calls. He's the opponent from the last hand that we need to get revenge against. The under the gun straddler calls as well. We're going 3 ways to the flop. It comes ace queen 6 with 2 clubs. We totally with it, but it's a good flop for our range when we raise pre-flop and don't get 3-bet. I wager 260. We'll never be up against a set of aces or queens, and the opponents likely would have re-raised us pre-flop with ace-queen. Since we don't have to worry about the opponents having those types of hands, they'll mostly have 1 pair at best. The big blind calls. We don't even get through 1 opponent. Under the gun folds though, it's heads up. The turn is the king of diamonds. We've basically got nothing with our under pair. I don't think our hand is best, but the king is another card that should be good for us. When we raised pre-flop, we can have ace king and jack 10. I stick with the aggression and bet 740. As long as we're not up against Broadway, the big blind is going to have a hard time continuing on in the hand. Even with a lot of his top pair combos, he won't be enticed to call our bet. He'll have to let those go unless he also has a straight draw. The opponent looks at his cards one more time and folds. We get our bluff through, taking advantage of the situation and all the high cards out there. We bet large earlier when we actually drilled Broadway. This time, we bet big as a bluff and get it through. Our decision to leave 5-10 in order to play higher stakes has worked out well for us so far. Next, we're dealt queen jack offsuit in the cutoff. This is a good enough combo to open with from late position, a raise to 120. The big blind calls. It's the same opponent that we've been battling with the last 2 hands. We're heads up in position. The flop comes king 9-5 with 2 spades. We've got a gutter and backdoor flush draw. The big blind checks. This is a flop that we're going to see bet a fairly high percentage of the time. I bet 140. The opponent knows that we'll be firing with all kinds of draws and bluffs. He's over it and puts in a check raise to 500. I actually just had a coaching session with Nick Petrangelo, and we went over this exact situation. With a spade in our hand, we can continue with a call and steal the pot on the turn if the opponent checks to us. I call the 500. This should scare the big blind, who might have been trying to make a move light. We'd play all of our set in 2-pair hands the same way up to this point. The turn is the 8 of hearts. It's kind of a blank, but 7-6 gets there. The big blind gives up and checks. If our opponent check raised us as a bluff on the flop, we don't need to bet much in order to get him to fold his weak hands. We're going to go with a small sizing with hopes that it'll be effective. I bet 400. The big blind's very annoyed, but us calling his check raise and then betting on the turn looks too strong. The opponent folds. We get our steal through to win a cool hand that I wouldn't have won a few days earlier if I didn't get the coaching session from Nick Petrangelo. I have a link to his training material in the description box below with a discount to GTO Lab. That's included for all those who are interested in improving your tournament play before the summer begins. It's time for us to rack up. I've been playing since 11 a.m. I didn't get off to a great start in 5-10 during the first 4 hours when I lost a nickel. During the second half, we went over 2,500 though. Altogether, it's a profitable day. We end up winning over $2,000 total. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like and subscribe buttons. It helps out the channel a ton. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I'm happy to get back to you. Don't forget to sign up to ClubWPTGold.com using promo Brad. I'm doing cool stuff all the time for you viewers, including a free roll I just did for over 160,000 and much more. So if you see me on there, feel free to let me know on Instagram or Twitter as well. It's always fun to hear from you guys. And then it's going to a client portal May 7th. So we'll be allowed to multi-table. This is huge. And then there are other improvements along the way. I have more information down below in the description box and pinned in the comment section. Also, if you're coming out to the WSOP this summer, be sure to check out GTO Lab, because if you're just putting in any kind of volume or tournaments, it's just really, really good to understand this ICM stuff. Nick Petrangelo and the people who run GTO Lab are the absolute best players in the world and incredibly insightful. If you sign up to that using promo Brad, you get a $25 discount off of any purchase that you make. All right, guys, if you see me around the WSOP, feel free to come up and say hi. And if you're interested, I'm happy to grab a photo. It could be the only 30 seconds or 2 minutes or whatever it is that we have to interact. So I don't want anyone to feel like, you know, too hesitant to come up and you know, have an interaction if you guys are interested. All right, hope you're all doing well. Hope you're staying safe. Good luck at the tables, and I'll see you next time.